LaTB, where MMA and UFC get silly. This is the LaTB Podcast.
Welcome back. This is LaTB MMA Podcast, and I am Emmanuel, as always, with the hostess, with the mostest, Cheney filling us in on what we're getting into today.
First, we are going to recap UFC 247, Jones versus Reyes, which is a hot topic. I know you guys can't wait to get into it. We're going to fly through the Twitterverse on our way to what you guys are all here for, UFC Rio Rancho breakdown, fight picks, and predictions.
We definitely had a event this week. If you were listening to LaTB, you were hearing us say, hey, remember Texas having a weird-ass commission? Whoa, did that come to fruition. Johnny Hendricks knew. The big rig, he was over there knowing that, as did Derek Lewis, that these judges might have been a little bit paid off. We didn't see Adelaide Bird in the stands, but she was there in spirit because atrocious cards. As we were saying, it started off, though, with a replacement in Zalal coming in against debut in Lingo. This was a unanimous decision. Zalal moving up a weight. Lingo really not doing much after that first round of the fight. Zalal really just kind of looked like TJ Dillashaw in there at his weight class, going down a weight. Zalal's going to be somebody to really look out for at 35. He fought this one at 45 on short notice, but I really like what I saw from the young man. It was the first one of the night. The judges got it right. It was an easy decision going against Lingo in this one. Did you take anything away from the first fight of the night?
I wonder what Lingo would be like if he was just a little calm, a little less anxious in there. I didn't think he just looked like his emotions got the best of him. He stopped thinking and he was just a little too passionate. But what was the other kid's name?
Zalal. Youssef Zalal.
Zalal was amazing.
Yep.
I loved everything that I saw from him, and I wish I would have. It's good just knowing it going forward. I thought it wasn't an easy fight for him. He was in trouble a couple of times, took some good shots. So I like everything I saw with him going forward.
Then we moved on to 135 pounds, where we had a controversial split decision for Andre Ewell coming in against Jonathan Martinez. I was on the Martinez side here. I thought he had the last two rounds, minimum last two rounds. First round, yeah, I think Ewell outstruck Martinez a bit, but once those left kicks got going, hitting Ewell in the body, the second and third round, actually having Ewell crumple up at times in there, I just thought Martinez just took hold of the center of the ring on top of, threw the more volume and landed more shots. I don't know how this was a 30-27 Ewell on any scorecard. 30-27 for either fighter in this fight would have been atrocious. And this was, for me, one of the most egregious cards
just one
of the
card
night.
Was the 30-27.
Only one card, but
and
that's
it was
all,
the same we saw throughout the night. There was the one card that was always
dramatically
super
different.
I actually thought this was going to be a split decision fight after I watched it. I knew it was going to be close. In the 29-28, 29-28, either way it went after there. There's a few things that I think kept happening in the night that we need to solidify the rules for these reasons. Is 3 more important than 1? Round 3 more important than 1?
It is not.
Is round 5 more important than 2?
It is not.
Okay. In that case, then I can see that Ewell won this fight 29-28. I thought he did enough in the first 2. I thought Martinez, clearly, if it would have gone that extra minute, 2 minutes, another round, Martinez probably would have finished him. That's the whole question of, like, the last rounds weighing heavier to people. They're fresher in the judge's mind. What does it mean? That 30-27 card, I can't even...
It doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make any sense.
Agreed.
The whole night. That one card. And I wonder if it was the same persons the whole night.
Jonathan Solis, I believe, a commissioner out of Texas, was one of the offenders. There was one other one, but Solis had 2 cards of the night that were completely opposite.
Like, were you even
of
watching
other people. Correct.
this?
Well, we'll get to it, but Joe Rogan and Dominic Cruz were saying they weren't watching, which I'm sure you all heard on the commentary, being some of the biggest news. Having Joe Rogan supposedly take a little bit of heat from that. But moving forward, I don't like Ewell moving forward. I think he can beat lower ranked guys, but I don't see him moving too far forward. I'm loving all of the progression I'm seeing from Martinez. I think he's coming along just fine as a 25-year-old fighter right now.
At his age, yeah, I'm interested to see where he goes. Right now, these fight, if they fought again tomorrow, I would still have split decision. I would not know either one to pick. I think they're both still low scorers. They just kind of grind each other out. They're both in the same spot in my head. It's like maybe not pick them, never bet on them, never put them on my DraftKings. So yeah, I'm not really feeling either. I'm not feeling less on either guy. I just think they kind of stay where they're at. I don't see any forward progression in this fight.
Fun matchups. I see what you're saying. I agree with you. I'm not so much with Martinez as I'm saying. I'm a little more on that one. One that we both switched on air at 135 pounds from Domingo Pilarte. We went over to Journey Newsome, the Pacific Northwest native, Impact Jiu-Jitsu star, getting it done in the first 40 seconds of the fight. I mean, he threw an overhand right in the first exchange, essentially, and it was night-night Peralta. Feel like we both touched on that a bit in the breakdown, saying, Peralta's getting hurt in all of these other competitions on the Contender Series. The reason we love them is because it's a scrap, but you're having these type of scraps on the lower level. That's not good, and now that he's at the UFC level, I'm not sure if Peralta's chin's going to hold out anymore. He was ultra aggressive, and it took literally one right hand, and he was a night-night.
Yeah, I want to heed people to getting too high on Newsome because of how little Pilarte's chin is. Even it's a glass chin.
It is a glass chin. It is
jaw.
Absolutely.
So I liked what Newsome showed us in the 38 seconds, but there was a minute in there I actually thought he was in trouble in that 38 seconds that I was like, oh shit. His stature was so tiny compared to even another 135er. It's kind of set up perfect for him to fight at the Portland card. Maybe he didn't get hurt at all. And that card's stacking up to be quite nice.
That's a great point. April 11th over there, I believe they got a main event. There was just a couple other ones put on in Portland, but I do believe that Newsome went to the hospital after this fight. He was the fighter out of both, even though I would have thought Peralta's ankle was done, because I thought his right ankle pinned under him and then shot out. It kicked out a little leg, and I was like, ooh, that foot must be hurting. Supposedly Newsome might have had some sort of injury that I still haven't found out about, but he was the one who supposedly went, so...
that'll be interesting, though. That fight is setting up, and I thought it was fun for Evil Twin. That it looks like Michelle Watterson versus Claudia Gadelha is going to be on. Or wait, not Claudia. Carla. Wait, Claudia. No, wait.
No.
I always do this.
Calvillo?
No, the other one.
Suarez?
No, the other one. The other Mexican badass wrestler.
Esparza?
Cookie Monster. Esparza. Michelle Watterson Esparza is on that card.
Okay, that's not bad at all.
That's not. And then...
because Gadelha just officially has a fight with Maria Rodriguez. That officially booked today. That's a hot-ass fight.
Yeah, I just thought...
it's a scrap.
If the Portlanders end up going, if your brother ends up going.
Oh, for sure.
Michelle Watterson, you'll both have watched them fight in the last year. You'll both have watched Karate Hottie in the last year. We saw her lose to Joanna.
Oh, it's more, I got to watch Joanna more than anything, honestly. I never thought I wouldn't have to pay for a pay-per-view to watch her.
Yeah.
We got a little treat there. But, interesting with Newsome, I agree. We got to be a little tentative on that. Peralta's
But I have
done.
to give full credit for Newsome to Evil Twin because I was like, whatever, I don't even care about this fight. I'm not going to put it anywhere. I'm not going to. And you were like, oh, he rolled with him. And your brother's a big dude compared to this little dude.
He's fat. You can say it.
But compared to this guy, I was like, oh, if he's rolling around with big guys like that, like, okay, I'm going to go with Newsome. So I put him on a card or two, and he probably was one of the better bets of the night.
He definitely was on that winning lineup for sure.
Yeah.
He was very, very cheap, under 700 or 7,000
So
on
that's an Evil
DraftKings.
Twin shout out.
Definitely
He's fat, you could
earned
say
that one. Then we stayed in the 135-pound division, where if you're trying to make any money, you're following Adzol tonight for the plus money. Puesta coming through again. We had Batista coming in after the first round, a little tentative. Neither guy really did too much. Johns looked a little tentative in there, and it was because Johns felt that knee coming and was just trying to back up off of it. Once Johns officially committed to just kind of running in with his blitz shots, Batista landed that front knee, and it was night-night. It wasn't a complete out. There was a little ground and pound in there, but I don't know if we're going to get too much plus money on Batista after a showcase like that. I think a lot more people are going to be on him.
It's so great, too. That was one of the better, another really sneaky good pick of the night. That was a good puesta. I did have Batista on things. I like Batista, but I kind of feel the same way about Pilardi as I do Miles Johns, where I'm just not high on Miles Johns. I don't think it's that he has this big name. He's one of these that there's certain few fighters that
he had an O by his name. He was 10-0 is why he was so big.
There's a couple of that there's this group of people that consider themselves hardcore fans that they are still they're like babies on the 4th of July, like, ooh, fireworks. Oh, fireworks. Like whatever somebody's telling them is the next hot prospect, that's what they're arguing with. Like they're the ESPN Sports Center talker. And I just feel like that's Miles Johns to me.
He was a hype job.
Yeah.
He was a hype job. Definitely. I think that O by his name, which did
like
go.
Some hype trains are real gigs. So I feel like there has to be another name for the faux train.
There it is. Yeah. There it is. So Batista letting go of that O for Johns. Then we moved in to the biggest upset of the entire night at 170 pounds on 7 days' notice. Chaos Williams came in.
On paper.
On paper.
Upset of the night.
For sure. Against Alex Morono here. I did hedge my bets to an extent. My linchpin was Morono. I was ultra high on him.
You were so high on air.
But I also said on air that he needs to go to a submission right away. If he tries to bang with this guy, he can get caught because he throws with power. And I was going submission round number 1.
But 27 seconds, I mean, every single fight starts on the feet.
Yeah, true.
Come on.
True.
That might have been the first thought in his head was, I need to take this guy down and submit him. He just could not get there.
In the first exchange, it was just done skis.
I'm going to say, I feel the same way about Morono that I did going into this. I just don't see it. I don't get it. His body looks weak. He doesn't look like he carries the strength of the other fighters at 170. He just looks flabby or something.
So do you think Chaos is going to be a real devastator? Or?
No, because I'm not high. That's why I think anyone that gets on this Chaos bandwagon, I like him. I think he'd killer knockout against a veteran.
He made the most of his opportunity.
Yeah, and it's not like we ever hear like, oh, Morono has a glass jaw. Like, that's not something we always hear. So I do respect the knockout, but I just think Alex Morono, I'm like, on him. So I'm not going to get high on Chaos Williams.
I agree. We're going to have to pump the brakes a little bit on here. Morono, going to be super tentative with that chin for him now moving forward. If anything, we've heard of how cast iron that jaw is. We also heard about Chuck Liddell. Where did that go? Yeah, you can only show it off so much. I feel like, dare I say, that's who the fight was for Portland. Vicente Luque is on that fight with a fun fighter.
I thought it was Nico. No, not Nico, not Brian Barberina. It was another weird...
It's a 170-pound guy in there, but
another weird fighter like that where it's like, oh, it's a scrap.
Definitely, it's a fun one.
Is it Brown?
Randy Brown.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. Randy is going to come in on a tough one. But the same...
Rude Boy.
Yep.
Okay.
The Jamaican Rude Boy.
Rude Boy Brown? That's what I was going to say.
Absolutely right on that one. So that's a great Portland headliner, even if it's not the headliner. That's one to watch out for.
I hope it's not the headliner for them. I've seen 3 fights right now going on that card, and they're fire. Right now, I'm like, damn, they're building that up fat.
I need to get over to Portland for my birthday. Yeah. Hey, fam, you want to send me down for my birthday?
You need to send the twins to the fights for their birthday.
Yeah.
Look how nice that would be for them.
So, definitely something to wait for. Then we moved on to another big controversial fight. At 125 pounds, we had a controversial split decision between Lauren Murphy and Andrea Lee. This was one that... people supposedly had it 30-27 for Lee. No way Murphy could have got that. I thought this was a pretty close split decision. I did think Lee was getting the better of the exchanges on the feet, but Murphy was showing that veteranship and getting a takedown at the end of every round. And this judge, for whatever reason, actually gave her the takedowns as beneficial position and gave her a point for that, which I just make it consistent. Have it all be them, because I saw motherfuckers get like 15 takedowns and it didn't count. So,
Who?
or LaTB fucking Derek Lewis.
I know there was no consistency with any of the fights.
Yeah,
I
so
forgot that fight even
LaTB should have
happened.
absolutely.
I forgot that happened.
What, LaTB conspiracy, I didn't think about it. I just thought cowboy hat. What's the worst thing you could be in Texas? A Russian. KGB Lee. Throwing that out there for you.
Oh, maybe. Totally, maybe.
That
I was just thinking, this is where I have to disagree with everyone on this fight. It's controversial because no one saw Laura Murphy winning. I had her winning 29-28 cleanly in this fight. That one scorecard, that's a 30-27, that's bullshit to me. That one scorecard. Right. But the 29-28 and then 29-28, I think a split, 29-28, Murphy, fine. Split 29-28, Andrea Lee, I would have been fine with that too. When I think they're going to be a split, either way they go, I'm willing to let it happen. To me, the veteranship of Murphy and the ring IQ, and she kept going longer. Andrea Lee looked more tired at the end of the fight. I said it going into this. Andrea Lee, and I have her number. I know her. I got Andrea Lee's number. I know you, girl. I know you. I know who you can fight and who you can't fight, and Lauren Murphy's nickname's Lucky. So if you think it might be a split, give it to the lucky one. Maybe I'm the lucky one. Do, 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 do. Ooh, so, I'm the lucky one.
This was the actual fight that Joe Rogan and Dominic Cruz were saying, hey, the judges aren't watching this fight that's incredibly close right now. And then there's even some footage going around of supposedly not the commissioner, but not the judge, looking down at the ground. The fact that that's even a question.
Well, this is the one thing, bad. Too, where I'm like, I'm naive. I don't know a lot, but I'm a conspiracy theorist. So once the official narrative is something, and the official narrative, Joe Rogan's a shit announcer. He's a biased caller. I think there's a good opportunity that they put TVs in the. So if you have the TV in front of you, you're blocking the view of somebody behind you. So they put the TV in the table, and they put a glass screen over it. I've seen a lot of broadcast booths that do that exact thing. I've seen a lot of newsrooms that have that. I wouldn't doubt if that's actually there. Like sometimes they even have it flat in the table with a little shade thing so that they can actually watch the fight closely sometimes. I wouldn't doubt that's not the case at all. If that's the case, my question is, if any of these judges are listening to the fight, I'd be willing to say Joe Rogan's biased bullshit calling is equally as bad as those bullshit judges. His bias makes everybody think they are. I didn't notice them give any props to Dom until he was still surviving the fourth round. We can get there when we get there.
Sure.
But it's just like for the whole night, it's just. I was hoping Dom would keep Joe on track, but I just feel like Joe decides one fighter that he likes, and that's the only one he noticed. His confirmation bias is he's no longer... It's like he's Joe Rogan, the entertainment guy now, not Joe Rogan, the announcer for UFC.
Yeah, he's the color now.
Yeah, but it's not even... And it's like he doesn't even give a fuck. Whatever rules may be there to even out the judges aren't even watching. What a great thing that you just did for that whole Texas commission, for the whole every single athlete that fights tonight. You just did a really odd thing,
underhanded thing.
Yeah, it just seemed not professional. Just like if I'm going into a fight, do I need to even think that is another thing I have to fight against right now is the judges? No, I got enough going on.
The Texas Commission did officially have a statement saying that there is a TV in a booth in the table.
Shut it.
Yeah, I retweeted it. So they actually did in there. But this does spark a lot of other just issues in our sport still. We're using the 10-point system. Everyone's talking about live scoring. Officially,
I heard
Kansas
that's going to be live.
Changed their promotions. Promotions now have an option in Kansas City or Kansas State to keep it as it is, and the judges at the end, or make it live scoring at the end of every round. The judges' scorecards are read so that the fighters know where they stand in the fight. So the promotion will have that option. I love it. I love it. Kansas, I don't know you for anything except making a good rule like that.
I also have to say there's things about it. I like that. Like, we need to get rid of the 10-8. Obviously, we need, like, you can't just be a boxing judge or a person who boxed in your life. You have to be somebody, even if you've never touched a mitt, you've never been on a mat. You have to be somebody who is versed in all aspects of mixed martial arts. You have to be a person who gets that. Whatever form that is, whatever kind of schooling that is, it can't be, I boxed in college and now I'm a judge.
Adelaide Bird isn't going to give up her spot that she worked for.
Homegirl probably never even kicked a soccer ball.
And it's because it's all boxing commissions. So the boxing commissions aren't going to be like, oh, wait. You're going to take all this money from us and put in your guys. No. They don't have MMA commissions, and that's where it needs to start to change. This is one of the things that I hate.
That makes no sense to me. And maybe if you took UFC 15 years ago or 20 years ago, it made total sense. But in my opinion now, octagon control, that idea is bullshit. The center of the octagon is lucrative depending on what you're doing. It isn't always the most lucrative spot depending on what kind of fighter you are. If you're somebody that is great throwing me up against the cage and can have total control, like, that center of the octagon, that's how I always knew we're about to get a fight robbery right now. We could already tell by what the announcers were starting to say. And so one of the fights, they were like, oh, this fighter lost, but look at how hot he was in the center of the octagon compared to this other fighter who took his shots from everywhere. I don't know.
And we won't even get into significant strikes. So.
Yeah, who decides? Who decides? The same person who plays DraftKings?
The same guy who plays DraftKings decides what a significant strike is, apparently, for my metric. Conflict of interest. Texas was a shit show. God.
Everything's bigger in Texas, even the shit show.
Man. But that has nothing to do with Texas, does the DraftKings guy. But even the allegations that supposedly their fight metric guy is playing DraftKings, that conflict of interest, unbelievable. Another unbelievable bout, we had Trevin Giles coming in against James, the big balls, Krause.
Where's that?
That is right after Lauren Murphy and Andrea Lee.
Oh, weird. Mine goes right to Lewis.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
they probably
just deleted that one off here.
And you might have not reloaded that entire window there.
Oh my gosh, I wonder if I even picked that
You
fight.
did not, and you still did amazing throughout the night. You only had 11 picks. So, I
would have got that one wrong, so I'm glad I stayed with
you.
You would have
went with Krause because this, if you haven't heard, Arroyo fell out after weigh-ins. Supposedly, he drank 3 gallons of water after weigh-ins.
Well, no wonder.
Yeah, so he started cramping, vomiting, and being
having
incoherent.
Almost a seizure. You can have a seizure from too much water.
You could waterlog in the like they would check us in the military to be like, no, you'll get foams of the brain and overheat and die if you drink too much water. Which, who wasn't around this young man? Who wasn't around him to be like, sip it? Everybody knows sip your water when you're dehydrated.
Or you shouldn't even give it to somebody. Should be in charge of
the
still
hydration.
Regulating what's going back in him. It should not be up to the fighter to think that.
Right, he's already
they should
compromised.
not even have to worry about that.
So James Krause is in the middle of eating a hot dog and is like, what? That guy fell out. I met that guy.
James Krause was sucking a dick. Or are you saying actually
he was eating his lunch.
I didn't know. He looked like it though when he was in the octagon.
He was there for his short notice replacement fighter Zalal. He was the coach for that fight and was like, oh, I'll take that fight. And UFC's like, what? You're up on medicals? Yeah. Can you make weight? Let me go check. He weighed like 186 pounds, took a big ass crap, went down to 183. Fight's on. Within 20 hours, James Krause takes a fight up at 185 pounds that he has never fought against a power hitter like Trevin Giles. I still went with Krause. I thought specifically on the ground, Krause was going to have a big advantage. He did that first round, and then the gas tank came up. Trevin Giles' submission defense was pretty spot on. Krause has since talked about it and said he was stronger than he thought, and that guy was ready for a whole training camp.
And a bigger dude.
Yeah, probably 200 pounds by that point. Yeah. So Krause ended up getting beat up the entire second round. But for me, I thought James Krause, just like we said with Trevin Giles, he gasses in the third just as much. I thought they were both incredibly gassed, but I thought Krause did more.
And Johns, Same dude.
Yeah,
Same
right?
dude.
Right? Pretty close.
No, I thought James Krause did great, and there was even though I thought he lost, one of the judges made it 30-27 in this fight too.
Correct.
And I'm like, no, he got the first round. He laid in a submission.
For 4 minutes.
Yeah.
4 minutes, you almost submitted him.
Yeah.
Agreed. 30-27 went to Giles because he's a local Houston officer. So, again, the fix was in tonight. The fix was in. People got paid. Paid. So many underdogs. 8 throughout the entire night ended up coming through. 8 underdogs. LaTB having one of the biggest underdogs. Cheney being top 50 in the nation, in the world. Tapology's global.
That's not even close. I've been in top 10. I've been in top 20. But hey, I'll take top 50. And I even missed a fight. I even missed one. Not bad.
Definitely.
The fix is in. You want to know where all that advertising money's going?
Then we move on to the
saving up just for this card.
Fight Pick Championships for the pay-per-view. It started off with Derek Lewis at heavyweight against debuting LaTB at heavyweight. This was a robbery. Derek Lewis predicted that this was going to be a controversial third round decision in his favor because Houston crowd. He was being fairly facetious, but did it come to fruition? I don't see how people gave Derek Lewis 2 of those rounds.
Yeah, I agree.
Maybe one of those rounds in the flurries, but
I had to stop watching.
LaTB, 7 takedowns, landed 3 of them and didn't let Lewis, but he didn't land any strikes on top. Regardless, control-wise, LaTB had the control in that fight. So, horrible, absolutely horrible fight though. It was boring as sin.
There needs to be blanket, is a takedown, what's that equivalent compared to a punch? Everything needs to be on a point system. So takedown compared to punch, I don't even think you need judges if everything had legitimate points involved. I don't even think you would need 3.
But,
I think you could actually just hold on and it takes somebody to tally it a few minutes. A computer has sensory on the mat. They watch everything in slow motion, done. As quick as that stuff's out, it's out. After the fight, they would just have to be like, all right, here's the time we go to the commentators in between. Everybody puts in who they thought won, and then we put it up.
Mm-hmm.
This fight was atrocious. When Derek Lewis won, I was like, this is such bullshit because I knew no one had LaTB. And then I was like, well, at least no one had Derek Lewis by decision. Except Ricky.
The real underdog of the Fight Big Championships coming up 2 weeks in a row.
No, last week didn't Buddy get it last week?
Oh, was it Buddy? Oh, they all just mixed in together like a big cloud of smoke over there. Those guys.
I don't know. Maybe it was Ricky twice.
I thought Ricky had at least a better showing. He didn't win it, but I'm saying Ricky was at the bottom. He ain't no more. He's definitely climbing his way up fast because, he slayed it. That queen slayed it this weekend.
He only beat me by 10.
For him.
He did good for him. He did good. I like to sit comfortably in second place. That's my spot. I've been in second place more than I've been anywhere else the whole Fight Big Championship.
You know me, I like to be John Wick with all the guns around me. All circling, all the sharks feeding. I'll make my move. There's still a couple months left before it's over.
All I care about, I'm going to say it again. Pink Machine Alpha, as long as you keep doing bad, I keep crawling. I think I'm only 35 or 45 behind him
We
now.
getting there. We getting there. LaTB's coming in hard.
Coming in hot.
Cheney's definitely slaying it up in there. But then we moved on to a split decision between Dan Ige at 145 pounds against Mirsad Bektik. I feel like we were spot on this one. We thought it was going to be a pretty close call. We thought Ige would have the better cardio in the third round as much as Bektik would be faltering in the cardio in the third. And I feel like that's how it played out. Ige, watching his fights, other people made mention of this. He loses every second round of his fights in the UFC. And go back and look at him.
100%. 1 and 3. That's what I was thinking in my head. He had 1 and 3 handedly. It's almost he takes a second off purposefully and
lets
totally
them
breathes.
gas out and then is like, oh wait, I got third round cardio.
Because he knows the third round's more important.
Dan Dynamite Ige in there getting some of the best advice I've seen in a long time. The clip's been going around of his coach being like, all right, this is what you need to do, this, and this. And in the last second, he's like, all right, what do we do now in the third round? Fuck him up. And he gets out there and scraps it out. Absolutely love it. Was technical. It wasn't that like get in there and rip his fucking head off.
Yeah.
It was incredibly technical, and then it was that last bit of like, all right, now get pumped because it's a fight, buddy. And Mirsad Bektik was just in his corner, just like holding on one more round. So Dynamite Dan, I think, isn't going to be an underdog too much more often moving on from this. Bektik, I am still really tentative on. Ultra tentative on Bektik. I don't think he's as good as he was.
I don't know. I think both guys are going to be good coming out of this. I think Bektik will be an underdog in his next fight, which he should be. And if he's put against the right guy, he's going to slay. I liked his chin better. Ige isn't a soft puncher, and that's what I was worried about with Mirsad. So him making it through 3 rounds with a guy of the likes of Dan Ige to me, who I think is one to watch. I think Bektik still has some good fights left in him, and I hope he's an underdog. I still think he has a good enough name.
I agree with that.
People are high on him. But I like both guys still going forward. Dan Ige, though, he's serious. He's a contender.
For realsies in
he's
there.
He's good everywhere. I really liked what he showed everywhere.
Definitely. He's getting hit at times. He was brawling a bit more than I liked in there, but hey, you got to be a fighter.
Is he a submission guy that fell in love with his hands?
Age old, but he goes back to those takedowns.
He's great with his hands. I actually think his fists have gotten so
much
crisp.
better.
Yeah,
so much better. For sure. Then we moved on to 265
This one makes
pounds,
me want to leave the studio.
where that hype has been nothing but high. Here at LaTB, I've been touting off Juan Adams way too much. Absolutely too much. Said you got to be tentative here. I just don't think Tafa is necessarily UFC caliber. But the mini Moa in there, Mark Hunt's disciple, ended up getting it done quick, fast, and in a hurry. A whole, what was it, pretty much like 45 seconds, 50 seconds, or like 2 minutes into the fight. Juan Adams trying to strike with him, not using any wrestling, eating a punch, and then the uppercut from Tafa put the lights out for Juan Adams. Juan Adams, after we did our breakdown, kept doing, I'll listen to the shows that I finally get to listen to, and some really horrible shit that I was like, damn it, why didn't I pick up on that? But he had moved to Jackson Wink, but he still wasn't going to freaking camp. He wasn't going to classes. Other heavyweights were like, dude, are you going to show up? Are we going to see you today? And then a week before the fight, Juan Adams went back home to visit his family to then come back. So he took a break between his training camp. Unprofessional as it gets. He's off to Little Debbie's. That don't matter anymore because he's off the UFC. He no longer has a contract. Officially, as of today, he said his manager called him and said, not in the UFC anymore. And he did it to his damn self. Absolutely. The Kraken has sunken. Humans won.
He was a quitter.
He quits.
He was a quitter in every time, right when he took a shot. Like, his skill set, honestly, still right now, even after piss poor performances, Justin Tafa and Dan Hardy should not be able, or Greg Hardy should not be able to beat him. It is crazy. He just, I don't want to get hit.
In MMA, right?
It's insane. Crazy. So I just feel like his body is everything that he needs to have. He doesn't have any heart. He has no heart. If you're at Jackson Wink with that body that he has, like probably the best physical build in the UFC as far as like
size-wise,
size and being well proportionate size, like huge everywhere, not fat, like just a thick dude, and he could have Ngannou hands eventually. With wrestling? Are you fucking kidding? Everything's there. It's like I want to be upset at you somewhere to be like, you push me on this guy and he loses every time. But no, he should have everything. It's just like no heart. He's lazy.
And it's just like, hey, fighters are made in every shape and size. And just because you got every muscle on your body doesn't mean that freaking your uncle isn't going to come from the barbecue and be able to knock out this muscly guy. Because Tafa could easily be in South Central LA at some barbecue on a picnic, and some cholo will be like, what's up, bro? And you be in for a bad night all of a sudden. Yeah. Absolutely. So I think Tafa still has fights to lose in the heavyweight division, honestly.
Totally agree. I'm going to be nervous about him the whole time.
It doesn't show anything beating Juan Adams at this point in his career.
Juan Adams should just change his name to The Cracked.
No! The Crack and.
The Crack and done.
Did you happen to see Justin Tafa's family celebrate the KO? Heartwarming. catch me on that Twitter if you want to see it. I reposted it a while ago. It is definitely a good one.
Obviously, I haven't been to your Twitter yet.
Not enough.
I'm like, you know what I think? And you're like, well, I retweeted that.
I just retweet. I don't comment enough on there. Unless you talk to me. I'm friendly. Then we go to the belts. The two that were on the pay-per-view. The first one being Valentina Shevchenko defending her belt against Caitlin Chukagian. Biggest favorite of the entire night. I thought it would go to decision. Val showed us that she could get it done inside 3, getting that amount of crucifix. It wasn't a knockout. Chukagian never was really hurt in that fight. She had a spinning back kick in the second, but I think the ref was just like, all right, lady, you're not going to get out of this position. Fight's over. Because she only landed 3 or 4 elbows, no cuts, and it was like, fight's over.
It was not... There was literally no way for her to get out of the position. I mean, not that there wasn't a way. If it was you in there, you could get out, or like a stronger person. But for Caitlin Chukagian, there was no way for her to get out of that position. She was weak, and Val had her between them thick ass Russian thighs.
She could squish watermelon in them guys.
Yeah, and then she had the other one. Like, she just had the position. It was kind of a sloppy crucifix, but nonetheless still very tight on one arm. There was no way Caitlin was getting out of it. I feel like the ref really just saved it so that Caitlin can fight in a few months. Because it would have just got brutal. There was nowhere great it was going. Is it sexist? Maybe. If it was a dude, would he have maybe gotten 5 more strikes? Yes.
Would he been out night? Probably.
Yeah, so.
Or more. There was a cut officially at the end of that first round, that elbow Shevchenko threw at the bell.
Yeah. Oh,
that was dope.
And how many unanswered strikes? There must be a count, because...
Usually, this is what I used to love about Big Country Nelson, is that he would literally get in that same crucifix position, and he would just start to throw punches, but he'd start a count. Because they're unanswered strikes. And every time, after he got after 10, refs always stepped it. Because they would start a count too, and he's talked about it. He's like, no. Refs are a bunch of idiots. I gotta tell them what I'm doing. And right now, this guy's not moving, and I just landed 15 strikes on his face. Fight's over. It's a great tactic.
Yeah.
Absolutely great
tactic.
tactic.
It's the same as the walk-away knockout that isn't
Mark
quite
Hunter's,
finished.
Right.
You could probably get on him, and then he'd come to a little bit and grab your leg and, and take more strikes. But a lot of the times, if you just hit it... Like, I think Reyes, there's a fight that he actually knocked someone out.
OSP, no, and it didn't count as a knockout. But yes, he did get that one.
Yeah, so I just think, maybe you just walk away. Like the baseball. You're just walk away, home run.
Well, a walk-away home run did not come in for Dominic Reyes against John Bones Jones.
So with Shevchenko, this is the whole talk.
Is there any talk? She can fight anybody?
Some say Amanda Nunes. I say F Amanda Nunes.
Agreed.
Let her be. She's 135, 145.
100.
I would rather Shevchenko lose 10 and fight winner Weili Zhang versus Joanna.
I don't think Shevchenko can, though. I think
she could.
Wow.
Because she pretty much walks around pretty close to the weight that she's fighting at. Mm-hmm. Like, she never cut when she was a 135er ever. She didn't even cut a pound. And then when she was 125, you've seen her build get smaller. I think if you look, her legs are a little thick. Like, if you see the way Weili Zhang is cut, that's what Shevchenko would look like at 115. When Weili Zhang comes in, that dripping.
Joanna, I don't know.
I think Weili is a big girl.
Yep.
She is as big as Shevchenko. I think I'm actually more excited for that fight, but I would be intrigued for Shevchenko to fight at Joanna's weight. They only went to decision. Shevchenko handled her.
Yeah, but I feel like Joanna was like, all right, well, I'm not going to be a champ at 25. Going back down to 15.
Well, didn't she take that kind of on a quick,
it was for the belt.
Yeah.
So it's like, of course you're going to fight for the belt. You're getting paid for the belt money. So that makes sense financially.
She can do anything.
Okay, so where does Chukagian go then? She can fight anybody. Shevchenko.
They say Shevchenko is saying what about JoJo Calderwood?
I like that.
And what about Roxanne Modafferi?
100%.
And I'm like, please, Roxanne Modafferi, because I don't want my JoJo in there with that mean old bullet.
Sacrifice.
I can't have my 2 girlfriends fighting over me.
You're gonna sacrifice Modafferi in there.
Yeah, because she'll be appreciative.
Definitely. That'll be really nice afterwards.
I actually think her wrestling could be a dangerous thing for Shevchenko. It's different.
It's definitely different. That's the.
I think
we'll
her body's
see.
gotten better. I think Modafferi beat Chukagian all day. All day. I think
That's probably gonna be that's probably gonna be the fight. It's either gonna be JoJo or Chukagian.
I don't know how. I bet you they put Roxanne Modafferi versus Chukagian and JoJo versus Shevchenko only because it has Chukagian and JoJo just happened a little bit ago.
And Modafferi, JoJo are teammates now.
They're so sweet.
Yeah, they train together, and then top 6 together. They were having some fun pictures out there, but.
And one more thing about Shevchenko.
Oh,
Her coach, I just admire him as a man, that he's like, I was just watching him with the sisters as they were training and doing their little like in and out of the hot tub thing and getting weight, like taking all their clothes off to get weight in. And I
What
was
a good
like,
coach.
Well, I was thinking, I wonder if at this point, they're just not, they're just like whatever.
No, and I'm being a complete jackass because there's many male coaches that make great coaches for males or females.
They don't see.
It's more of a father-daughter, father-son relationship where it's like, no, I'm not here for that. There's people that will break those bounds, creep shows, but a good coach is like, no, we're here to fight. We're here to fight, guys. It seems like something
no one talks about because it's just like, oh, we're not allowed to talk about that stuff. It's fighting only. But I'm actually I admired that. Look at he didn't make me feel creepy at all.
Right.
While she was getting undressed and he was picking up her clothes, and I'm like, that's awesome. That whatever relationship goes on amongst them is like pure like that.
Right. They're all making a living together.
Yeah, I just liked it.
So
anyway, go on. Sorry. Now we can get into it.
To the main event where Dominic Reyes put in a performance of a lifetime, ended up getting taken away from a judge. As we've been saying, the common theme of the night was 2 judges were absolutely right, making it a split decision. But there's the third one, and it was Solis in there that was... What the fuck were you watching, dude? Because there's no way either fighter had a 49-46. Supposedly, I've heard pundits say they've watched the fight again and that it is, there is that big of a gap. And yes, Jones might have won more of those rounds. But watching that live and going back and watching what rounds I could, Dominic Reyes won the first 3 rounds to me. He absolutely won the first 3 rounds. The second 2... it wasn't even close. The third round was the closest. The strike stats were the closest. There was no takedowns. And it's potentially just octagon control, but that was the biggest gap. First round, decided Dominic Reyes. Second round, fairly decided Reyes. Third, that's where it gets close. Last 2 rounds, 100% Jones. Absolutely 100%. But that makes it 3-2 rounds.
One of the last 2 rounds, you could even make it close because even though if you want to call them takedowns, there was so minimal control and Reyes actually landed elbows and Jones landed nothing. So it's even in the takedown, the Jones got his second least amount of takedowns ever in a fight of attention. Like the other was against Gus. And this is what I have to say. This is where I said it before the fight, so anyone can say, oh, now everyone's saying this. No, I think John Jones fought a bunch of old men and everybody put him in this spot of this god. And he took down DC, but he took down DC. Yeah, DC's short as fuck. Notice who he can't take down. Guy's his own size. That's why they have better takedown defense against him. That's why he couldn't take down Gus. That's why he had a hard time with Dom. He took them both down. Yes, he still got them both down, but it's height leverage. That's what John Jones, if you watch his takedown style, he gets to get leverage under, and then pull up. The way he does it though is all about, he posts
getting
up.
Under those legs,
and then he took DC down that way. Not obviously that's part of wrestling. You use your body and your leverage. But I think if you have the height and John Jones can't post on it, just make his body erect on you and get the double underhooks to get you off balance, you're not going anywhere. And I think Reyes did a great job with that. I listened to a clip from Ariel and he never switched stances before and learned it live fighting Jones. What?
I heard that as well. That makes 0 sense at this level of fighting. That literally nobody was like, hey, switch your stance.
Well, I was watching all of his other fights and he had a whole different style in that.
But it perplexes me that nobody was like, hey, fight off with the other foot real quick.
His first MMA fight ever was in 2014.
Right.
Ever. Not his first UFC. His first MMA fight ever.
Still. Him being an athlete, being a receiver, you line up on both sides with your front foot
But that's
forward.
why it was so easy for him.
Well, I would think so as well.
Right? In a fight, he could make whole new patterns because, like, during...
But why not drill that? That's what doesn't make sense. Why not practice anything?
I don't think he's a wide receiver.
He was a wide receiver.
Oh, I thought he was a safety.
Oh, you could be right on that.
I might be totally wrong. I might be thinking of a different fighter. I might be thinking of like Brennan Schaub, like a whole different football player.
He was a lineman. He was a lineman, I think.
Maybe it was safety. I don't even know why I'd have that in my head. I don't know. Dominic Reyes won the fight. I've watched it 4 times. I've watched it slow motion. I've watched people's clips. I don't see how you could give it to John at all. The only handedly won round for either fighter, the whole fight to me was round 1, where it was like, oh, that's easy decided. We're saying that wasn't a knockdown for John Jones in the first. We're going to say it's not a 10-8 and that wasn't a knockdown, even though I think what happened, and anyone who knows about fighting, Reyes picked apart the body. He realized these headshots aren't getting anywhere with him. Picked apart the body. The judges didn't give a shit about that. It's so crazy. They didn't give a shit about it. Leg kicks, didn't give a shit about it. So who landed more headshots, I bet? I have no idea on a fight metric. I bet John Jones landed more headshots and he got a takedowns. So if you're not schooled, I don't know if the comparison's fair of like, do you have an umpire ref a football game? You know?
Exactly.
But is it?
Exactly. Like they know how it works, but they don't know the intricacies of the sport.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think that's a great comparison.
I just think of myself 3 years ago and myself 6 years ago to myself right now, and how if I doped, fell into a job 6 years ago compared to 3 years ago compared to now, how unqualified I would have been even when I thought I was qualified 3 years ago. How if I looked back at myself right now, I'd be like, no, you had no idea. So now I'm still learning. I just can't even imagine, like Adelaide Bird, if me and her were to take an MMA test, I guarantee you I'll outscore that bitch. How is she judging an MMA fight right now?
I think we have an option right now with the LaTB business plan going out there and making the first ever judging school and classes. You can come to us. We will teach you how to be a good judge. We will show you how to be a good judge and score these things properly but I feel like 80% of the MMA community can as well.
Yeah,
it's easy.
I don't want them in rooms. It would almost be this. But it can't be a popularity contest. They would have to go through and pick a certain few people, but they almost could watch from their fucking home. But I would rather them not be in the arena. I would like them to be in a soundproof room, and I don't want them to hear the announcers. Which
I feel like that's the biggest common trope that I've been hearing from everybody. Everybody's like, why are these guys even cage side? Because when we were in Florida, we saw Steamroller Favola win a fight surely because of his fans.
100% because of the
surely because of his fans. And we were like, whoa, he did not win that fight, but those fans won it for him. And the judges are human. So I completely agree. I think they can be separated to a closed circuit cam. If not, real live stats. We've all been saying it lately. Verdict.
Yeah.
Has been the way to go. But Verdict had that fight officially going for John Bone Jones.
No, they didn't. They had 3 rounds going for Reyes, 2 going for Jones, and then the way that they added up the percentage scores of everybody who voted went to John Jones. Yeah, it was
so
3 rounds.
Won them more decisively, so therefore that's how he won it because of the rounds they gave him.
No, like, it's the percentages they add up. So it was like, let's say the first round,
they were decided
70% Reyes and 30%. And when they added up all John Jones' numbers for his rounds, because he clearly won, the last 2 where everyone's like, oh, Reyes is taken off.
And it did say on the verdict, first, second, and third, and it showed the CompuStats, like first round decidedly. Second round, not as much. And then the third round was razor close, but Reyes still had the overall average.
What could have happened the best if everything, in my opinion, even though I had Reyes winning 3 rounds to 2, I would have totally been okay with the draw and John keeping the belt.
That would have still that would have still been better than showing the incompetencies that they did.
Yeah. And
Like you'd be like, all right, the fix is in, but at least they saw the same fight. But when what they did here just is like, come on, Texas, like this is bad.
I think we can go right into Twitterverse because of this.
Of course.
Because it's like pretty much everybody wants the rematch only. I actually think their controversy is good for John Jones.
Sure.
Because it sets up a whole... everyone was like, who's John going to fight? The division split right before this happened. Now a bunch of Johnny-come-latelys are like, I loved Tom Reyes. But they're like, John has no one left to fight. It's Stipe or nothing. And I think Stipe wins, not because John isn't a better wrestler, but he can't get the height leverage on him. And that chin ain't going to hold up with a little more power. I think Stipe hits harder than Dom. His footwork's not going to be as good as Dom's. He's not going to punch as fast, but it's going to be harder. And in the inside, he's going to be stronger than Dom and taller. So I think that's just what I think about the Stipe. But I think it's Reyes or nothing. That's what I want to see.
Last time somebody made it close with John Jones, it took them over 3.5 years to get a rematch.
But didn't he also get, that's all. Oh, this is the other thing I have to say. Everyone always says, oh, well, the only fights that were close to John Jones, the rematches. He always comes back in against DC and Gus and schools them. Yeah, and those are always when he pops, too. That's what I have to say about that. Like, I'll add to it. I'll add levels to the game. And if he fights Dom again, I bet it's after he does some weird cycle.
I don't think that it is going to be Dominic Reyes, simply because...
No way, I agree with you.
There's no way. John Jones is like, all right, been there, done that test, and he's going to move on to somebody else that he... Because Reyes downloaded John Jones as much as John Jones downloaded Reyes.
And
so
I totally
this is where John Jones does have other fresher matchups that we do have out of Rancho Rio.
But this is what I was going to say.
Yes.
So, Twitterverse. Did you see all the stuff going on with Jackson Wink and Frank Lester?
I did not. Please fill me in.
Okay, so he, I think it was on Instagram, he put out, fakest group of people I've ever been around. They will invite you on the team after 8 years of faithful service. They will use you for the highest level of sparring and drilling. They will pray with you like you family, but in actuality, none of these dudes give a flying fuck about the other personally. They just hang on John's nutsack because they want to get paid. And when I got ripped off, all these so-called friends turned their backs on me and all the hard work I had given to the Team John and Jackson MMA as a whole over the last 8 years. Just because John is a super control freak who has to get his was, and I wonder if he meant his way. And if you're not ready to be his yes man and suck on his ego inflated dick, then you're out. Well, let's see what karma has in store for this weekend and these fucking chumps. This is right before the fight. Were you going to say something?
Yes. This was actually a few months ago. I feel like we did talk about this.
The one where he let's go champ at Dom Reyes at the end of it?
Maybe not. No, maybe there's a new one. Yeah. But no, Lester has had issues with him. Yeah. And there was other... Okay, so this is new.
So he's like, right. Let him hate so long as fear, blah, blah, blah. I won't read the whole thing, but he pretty much is like, it's not Jackson Wink, it's Jones and Wink. That's what the whole camp should be called. He goes through this whole thing. So back in September 19, the one you're talking about, yes. Real Talk Out Cowboy Cerrone, I publicly apologize for defending Jackson Wink. That's the one you're talking about, and he goes through all this.
Where it's on site, John Jones, on site! And John Jones is like, I'll call the cops. Literally. He's like, I will take whatever precautions, whatever, but...
And so then... John also tweeted a whole bunch of stuff on Twitter, and then he took down some of it. Like, he put out all
Notorious deleter.
Yeah, but he was like, Dominant outstruck me by literally 12 shots. I scored the takedowns, was the aggressor, controlled the octagon every round, have more significant strikes landed. Significant strikes. Dom completely stopped fighting in the championship rounds. And has the audacity to be mad at the judges. Championship rounds are like the only...
They get scored more, apparently.
Don't be mad at the judges. Be mad at Dom's conditioning guy.
I love John Jones talking shit, though. He's pretty funny.
He's like, give up when you're in deep water, and now going around doing interviews talking about being robbed. When will these young boys start taking responsibility? That's what's wrong with the boys these days. At the end of the day, these are all different tweets. He went on
Correct.
a rant.
A rampage.
New tweet. At the end of the day, I got to be part of another classic. I'm over here in Albuquerque, smiling from ear to ear. Having fights like that tickles my pickle. It makes me feel so alive. Makes me feel like a man, especially when you display having balls the way I did. Nothing but a win. He's probably like laying in bed, can't walk with his swollen legs. And then new tweet. And I know my haters are pissed, which also makes me really happy. New tweet. Fight like those who are the ones fans never forgot. What a way to make history.
So he did break GSP's record. Officially having more title defenses. Obviously going to be a Hall of Famer. With an asterisk. If Barry Bonds has one, John Jones has one.
It should happen. These are the two he deleted. I have to read you.
Please.
If anyone was robbed, it was Dom's fans. He robbed them of finishing the fight like a man. Going out on your shield isn't for everyone, I guess.
Ouch.
Delete. The other one he deleted. I feel like critics are throwing around the word robbed way too freely. There's a huge difference between a close fight and a flat-out robbery.
4-1 rounds is a flat-out robbery in that fight.
And that's the end of all that.
So, John Jones... I wonder how Lester felt about the win this weekend.
Lester.
Sure, he was pretty
and did you
pissed
see
about
all
it.
the people that got let go from the UFC?
Please fill me in because I have seen it, but we haven't talked about it on the show.
Brad Katona.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Katona.
Katona from City Kickboxing. No, Brad Katona.
You remember him.
I do.
I think he's
remember.
from New England or something.
Oh,
Or maybe
yes. Yes, okay. On a couple lots.
Junior Albini.
Of course, that makes sense.
God.
That makes sense.
Nathan Coy.
Saw that. He just hasn't fought in a long time.
I know he's probably, it's like one of those guys that you're like,
Yeah,
I thought he was already
exactly. I thought they let him go a year ago, but I don't know what happened.
Brandon Davis.
That sucks, but he's been on a 4-fight losing streak. Like, there's no
way.
way.
It's like, I feel like they took out all the guys we bet against normally.
Yeah, all our fades.
I know.
All our constant
it's so
fades.
Great, though. Kalindra Ferreira.
Oh, not missing anything there.
Grigory Popov.
Came in and lost 2 decisions, I feel like, in a row. Maybe
I know,
one
and I felt
knockout.
like they were exciting. Maybe I'm wrong. Ben Saunders.
For his own good, hopefully.
Yeah.
Because
he'll probably be in Bellator.
That's what I was about to say. But at least it's not UFC caliber fighters putting him
he
out.
He might win a bunch of submissions in Bellator.
Exactly. He might be actual without taking damage. If he chooses to keep fighting, maybe he just goes on that every brash tour.
Jinsu San.
Okay, that's going to happen as well.
Daniel Spitz.
Oh, thank you. I've hated Spitz forever. Forever.
All right.
And that's all the ones that were like, oh, and the crack and.
The crack and.
Juan Adams.
Yeah, so I guess if, do you have Twitterverse? Anything to add, or should we get to the business?
I think we get to the business.
So, as always, make sure you are liking and subscribing and following us at LATB_MMA on Twitter and Instagram. And you can find Emmanuel, as always, at Zoltanite on the Twitterverse. And you can find me at WeakNeckBaby. And that's all I have to say about that.
Then we get into a amazing fight card for free on ESPN Plus coming out of Rio Rancho, New Mexico. Sounds like it should be a resort, and it's going to be for Pain coming up this weekend in a 13-card bout, like I did that there.
I don't know. I'm still trying to a resort for Pain.
So, in New Mexico, we are going to be at elevation. We told you guys to worry about the judges. New Mexico actually has a pretty good commission, especially if you know Jackson Wing's involved. So, we are, on the more serious note, going to be at elevation, though. We're not going to be as high as Colorado or Mexico City, But we are going to still be, I believe it's around 6,000 feet above sea level. So it's still going to impact people. It's still something you have to worry about. And maybe someone who has gas tank issues.
New Mexico, this card better than last week's pay-per-view.
By far. Evil Twin kept saying that nonstop. And I'm like, yeah, you're right.
The two, we got to see the two champs. But other than those fights, if you took them off, this card slays it.
This card is so much fun to get into tape back on. It was a lot of just watching old stuff. Only a couple debuters. Ton of fun prospects. And it starts off from the bottom to the top here at LaTB with Mark De La Rosa coming in against Julian Paiva. Paiva coming in hot out the gate, 18-3, coming off a 2-fight losing streak in a robbery to Kai Kara France from City Kickboxing over in Australia. A fight he absolutely won. And then, as of late, losing in a cut stoppage against Batorin, who we're going to see later on making his debut. Paiva, the fight was starting to turn in his favor. I felt like he ate some humongous shots when he got cut there, but he lands tons of power, has good striking on the ground. We haven't seen him much. Kara France tried to get it there, and we saw that Paiva was more than competent on the ground. So I think that his power at 125 pounds is the game changer in this fight. I feel like it's going to play a heavy role and make De La Rosa really hesitant here. The 25-year-old De La Rosa is 11-3, coming off of a 2-fight losing streak in the UFC as well, also losing to Kai Kara France in a decision, and Alex Perez in a decision as well. Split decisioning Sanchez, losing to Tim Elliott in a submission. Rosa is one of two of the Rosas on the card. This is going to be the first time that a husband and wife have ever been on a UFC card together. Interesting if you want to play the narrative side.
All De La Rosa, no De La Rosa.
Hey, I think it's really telling that if this De La Rosa doesn't do it, then it's going to be that much harder for the next one. So I don't know if I really like that, but it's something that I have to keep in
I would
mind.
be so nervous. Like,
Hell
I would
yeah.
be more nervous for Jules than for myself.
100%.
Like, I would just be thinking, oh my gosh, I hope she does okay.
Hey, Baby Pettis, Big Pettis, when he got finished, and then Big Pettis is like, it's time and time again true that it happens. But again, as I'm saying, I think Paiva could keep it standing when he needs to. De La Rosa has shown great takedowns, boxing that's getting better, but it's really on the ground where he does his best work with submissions, getting on top, flowing. But I think Paiva is formidable enough that he can stop a lot of that. We like to tell you guys to stay away from these first ones. We have tape on both of these guys. I got a decision right now. I'm going to stay away from this one. It's too close to call, I feel like. This is just want to sit back, watch, and have fun. Might have a little exposure, 10% to Paiva, just because I see it being a decision, a finish out of the two. Well, I think Rosa can get a submission. Paiva decision, stay away. What do you think about this one?
I got De La Rosa. The guys that De La Rosa is losing to are top notch to me. He went against the best Tim Elliott. Kai Kara France isn't bad. And I also am a huge fan of Alex Perez. I mean, we just keep seeing how he's slaying and slaying. So this is close. I'm going to go with De La Rosa decision. I like Paiva too, but I'm a little nervous for him to come down, honestly. He already looked bad to me at the weigh-ins, so this could be even... Well, I guess didn't he weigh this in his last fight anyway? Doesn't he fight down here? Yeah.
125.
I'm going to go with De La Rosa decision. It's close to call. I don't even... What are their average points?
Their average points with the minus 210 favorite for Julian Paiva, 8,800, averaging 19 points on DraftKings. Against De La Rosa's 7,400 plus 170 underdog, 41-point average.
I think it's a dog or a pass.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong in that one. I am going to actually stay with the LaTB rulings. Have a big fat stay away on this one.
Probably smart.
Then we move on.
I get every first fight of the night wrong, regardless, no matter how.
I'm staying on Paiva then.
Probably. Be careful. Watch if I switch.
So then we move on to 135
That's why
pounds.
I stay away from them, because I get them all wrong.
Exactly. Exactly. So then we come in with the bantamweights, having the returning Macy Chiasson coming in against the pullout queen, Nico Montano. I mean, Shayna Young. Nico Montano staying true to form and pulling out of another fight on about 8 days' notice. Shayna Young stepping in and having her hands full here for this one. The 7-2 prospect has fought an Invicta. She's been win one, lose one for a while, only losing 2 ever. The fight that really skews me for Young is the first fight I pick. I'm like, all right, let me see this. It's her amateur debut fight where she was knocked out in 20 seconds and out cold. And I'm like, oh, but then she took a year off, came back, and has really looked really good and like a different fighter after that. She really has a Holly Holm type of body type. Really muscular in there for a 28-year-old. A lot of relative competition in there. Likes to keep it striking on the ground. She's strong on top. Not many submissions. She's more of a decision. If not, she'll knock you out in there. But she definitely has an issue with submissions. And Chiasson here at 5-1 has proven that she can submit women as much as she can knock them out. Unless you're 40-year-old Lena Landsberg. And one of the biggest underdogs to come through for 2019. All the hype. Do I want to make excuses for Chiasson and say that she flew around the world for the first time ever? She had her apartment broken by a freaking crane at Disney or something crazy. Like, she had a horrible year. Absolutely. Then they flew her across and Lena Landsberg got it done in there. The Fortis MMA prodigy should be better striking, have a little bit more power. I actually like the clinch work for Young. If she sticks to that Lena Landsberg and just keeps her on the fence, Young can do a lot of damage here, and she does that in some of her fights. We got to go with the veteran here, but especially after her last showing, I don't see how you can be confident on Chiasson at all whatsoever. I got a submission round number 2 just because she does have the grappling accolades, but I'm going to be tentative on this one. Who do you think you're going to pick?
And on short notice
8
as well
days.
for Shayna Young. What is wrong with Montano? I was actually going to have her in this fight. I thought her fight style was perfect to fight Chiasson, and I thought she would be a huge underdog, and everyone would be really surprised because it'd be the first fight I went with Montano in against somebody. But I just felt like her fight style might do good against Macy. And then when she pulled out, I thought, oh, she don't even want that smoke. But I don't know if she's actually hurt. I saw her crying, but I didn't listen to anything. Once the lady cries, I'm like, boo! So I didn't hear any words. I just saw that she was crying about something, so I hope she's okay. I have Chiasson. I'm going to go with knockout round 1, nasty inside elbow when she gets in the clinch. I got to think something's changed a little bit, and she's not used to losing, so she's going to want to get the last taste out of her mouth. The short notice fight, I'm not going to go heavy on it, though, because she's frightening to me, but I think it's a first or second round knockout or nothing. If I just don't see her getting the decision. So if she can't finish it, I don't know, maybe this other girl can eke out the decision on her.
It's definitely going to be an uphill battle for the big favorite here. She's going to be, I don't have the exact line on here right now, but she's going to be somewhere in the 3-1 favorite easily. Chiasson on DraftKings is going to be one of the most expensive fighters at $9,400 against the underdog Shayna debuting Young at $6,800. Does the lady have a nickname? The Shayna Jader? What is that? The Shanimal? The Shanimal. That's actually kind of cool. Am I?
Whatever. Yeah, for 9-4, I don't think you can go heavy in the paint on that.
Yeah, I think you pick it's Chiasson or nothing there, but 9-4, it's going to be 10% owned, if that. Yeah, super low.
Yeah.
Then we move on to bantamweight, 135 pounds, where we have a fight of the night potential in our hands with Casey Kenny against Mirab Davishvili. Casey Kenny having 2 first names. Best thing about his fighting style. It's definitely that he likes to get to the ground. He's well-rounded everywhere. Came in on short notice being 13-1-1 and winning easily against Manny Bermudez there, just out grinding him. Bermudez since then been cut, but Kenny just showing that he's tough. He's got a good chin, a good game plan, and serviceable everywhere. On the ground, he's actually has quite a submission game as well. And against Davishvili, he's going to need that because the 9-4 Georgian fighter is fighting out of that Serra-Longo training camp, training with Aljo and all those guys. And all of those guys are like, this guy can fight for 5 rounds, full pace, nonstop, and only did that controversial submission that he had against Simon in his debut. Other than that, he's looked like he's been a DraftKings light bulb in there. He's just been able to keep scoring constantly with those takedowns, getting 3 points for everyone. Lately, the judges haven't been giving control, which makes me worry about that because Dakishvili is the kind of guy who, well, and is Kenny, that will get taken down for 3 seconds, get up and start a transition again. And it's like, hey, Olympics, they would have called that. I don't know about this, but I feel like this can be a high scorer in general. For either fighter, I'm leaning a little more with Dakishvili. I just feel like he keeps a little bit higher pace, but I give the better straight up power and crispness is Zaketi. I like his hands and what I saw. Dakishvili's more of a pace fighter. With that, I have Dakishvili just winning this on volume. I'm excited for this one. I don't know if I can make a bet. This is I feel like it's pretty close. Apparently the line says not. What do you think is going to go down in this one?
I feel like both fighters are worth their points here. I have no idea what either of them cost, but I'm guessing on DraftKings, they're both high scorers. I really like Casey Kenny. I think he has great takedown defense. I think he has good takedowns. I think he has the better hands. I think he has a better cardio. Dakishvili, I think he gets a little winded toward the end, and he just kind of floats the last few minutes, especially of the third round, and Kenny isn't going to go for that. You said it was on short notice?
No, this one was not.
Oh, okay.
No,
I was
no.
Damn.
No, Casey Kenny came in short notice against Bermudez and won.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and Bermudez is supposed to have this crazy great ground game. That's what I feel like Davishvili, except for it's wrestling instead of, jiu-jitsu. I think Kenny could be a real problem here. I kind of like both guys, but I'm going to go with Kenny eking out a decision. I think if he can negate any takedowns, he's going to have the better hands. I think he's better than anyone that Davishvili's gone against yet, by far. I've had Kenny against all the guys that he's fought. So, yeah, give me Kenny decision. Weird.
I'm really surprised because I would make this more of a coin flip fight. And minus 210 for the favorite, Merab Dakishvili, 8,400 against Casey Kenny's 7,800 plus 170. I see it being like a minus 140 Dakishvili.
Yeah, I like that.
Way closer than it is.
How many
that line's
points
too
are
deep.
there?
On average, Dakishvili averages 84 points. Casey Kenny averaging 85 points.
Oh,
Only
yes.
having one fight, though.
Oh, yes.
So, 7-8 for it. I think you can have exposure to either one of these guys. I'm going to probably go 20-20 or 10-10 of either one of these guys because I think there's a lot of reversals. I think there's a lot of volume in general in this fight. I think
like
there's going to be a constant pace. It is such a sneaky fight for a fight of the night potential in there. I'm really excited for it. Then we move on to 205 pounds. We have Devin Clark coming in against Daquan Townsend. I feel like we just saw Townsend fight, what, 2 weeks ago? 2 weeks ago? Against Bevan Lewis in a decision that he lost, where it was, I believe, potentially a split. Townsend coming in on essentially 9 days' notice. Devin Clark being
And at 205. Like, he just bounces around everywhere. He was at 185.
He moved up from 170 to 85 and was not...
It's kind of smart. Like, let's say he fights 6 times a year and he fights them. Like, he loses weight and fights and then goes up weight classes. He's like, okay, 2 weeks, yeah. I don't have to cut a pound.
It's definitely good for him, but man, oh man, he doesn't have that big of a test, I guess. Devin Clark's somebody that we faded a lot, and it works. He's always win one, lose one for a long time now. He's 10-4 fighting in the wild for the UFC, tends to wrestle, has a little bit of power, some of the biggest legs in the entire game, but he doesn't use them. all they're good for is gassing, because that's what Devin Clark does in every single one of his fights. He has been submitted without his legs, without the hooks in, by Yanni Blachowicz in there. He's been KO'd. He's been outpaced. Devin Clark has lost in every fashion you can think of. I know it says only 4, but I feel like it's been way more than that. Is that just me?
I'm staring at it, and I'm like, I felt like we saw his last fight, and I thought he knocked someone out.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm looking at his record like, is that right? He got submitted by Ryan Spann? I thought he knocked someone out. I felt like we watched him knock someone out in Tampa. Am I crazy? Maybe it was in Miami, but I'm looking at it like...
I thought he would have had a different fight in there, but 4 months ago, Ryan Spann guillotine choke ended up getting him.
Put it in the Mandela effects.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But Devin Clark in here, I mean, he's got a very steady game plan, and it's get you up to the cage, dirty box you. If he can finish you, he will. But I really liked in Townsend, even though he was losing that last fight 2 weeks ago, which it was close. It's just he showed the heart of a lion in there, but his skills are capped to a certain extent. I was actually surprised he did as good as he did against Bevan Lewis, who injured his leg in that one. But I don't know. Call me. It's just 2 weeks is just too short a notice. Up a weight class.
That's thug life.
I just can't.
I was fighting every day in the streets.
I can't.
Damn. How does your body even... You went to the decision. It'd be one thing if you got, like, you had a quick finish. But you finished
someone, not even like, God.
I don't know. Yeah. It's a lot. It's a weird fight. I'm going to stay far away from this.
I agree.
I don't even want to pick it on my...
I got Clark just because I have to with these circumstances.
Can't you see Daquan eking out a decision?
Or knocking him out.
Gasses so much.
Or Daquan is really long, and he was throwing that right hand that was even catching a fast fighter like Bevan Lewis off. Devin Clark has... by far bigger holes in his striking than someone like that. So if anything, I feel like the play here can be Townsend in spots as far as DraftKings. He's a big underdog. Plus 230 is Daquan Townsend against Devin Clark's minus 300 favorite. 9,300 for Devin Clark against Daquan Townsend, 6,900. There's no way I'm ever paying over 9,000 for Devin Clark in any fight.
No way.
He's not trustworthy enough. He's on a UFC run of lose one, win one, lose one. He's on a win one. I think the short notice helps him. I think the weight class helps him. But I'm going to speckle some Townsend in there in case of knockout. And I'm going to put no Devin Clark in there because I don't think he finishes him. I think it's a decision.
I agree. I agree with everything you've said.
Then we move on to another fight of the night contender in there with Scotty Hot Sauce Holtzman at 155 pounds against Jim the Lyme's disease Miller, winner of Lyme's disease.
Spirochete bacteria Miller.
A10 is Jim Miller's nickname. A10.
Plum Island Miller.
Hey, why not time? You just make it time. Jim Miller time. But I'm sure all sorts of laws. But either way, the 31-13 longtime veteran has been fighting nothing but elite fighters, coming off a 2-fight winning streak against Jason Gonzalez, who I bet against Miller there. And then last submitting Clay Guida 6 months ago. Jim Miller is fighting a lot less at 36 years old. But when he's fighting, he's really making it count now. Even though I poke fun at his Lyme disease, he did beat Lyme's disease, and he's been having better performances than he's ever had since that turnaround in there, and he's made tribute. We watched Jim Miller win in Florida.
Yeah, quick win. Made quick work.
Yep, definitely got it down on the ground.
Quick submission in front of his family.
He has great striking, but what I feel like I've really seen as of late, especially when we saw it live here against a bigger fighter, was Jim Miller's like, oh wait, I'm a better wrestler, have some D1 experience against all these guys. Why don't I get away from my striking, even though his boxing's come a long way. And now that he's getting it to the ground, he's able to do what he wants down there because he's by far a better grappler than most of these guys. Scotty Hot Sauce Holtzman, 13-3, had some hype coming in there, actually being a month younger than Jim Miller, but by far Jim Miller has those octagon years by leaps and bounds. Hot Sauce Holtzman coming off of a big win against Dr. Stoppage. Prior to that, he lost to Nick Lentz in a decision. And I see Jim Miller being a better Nick Lentz.
I would have Nick Lentz in that fight, but the judges would give it to Miller.
Right. And right.
Even though Nick Lentz would win, the judges would give it to Miller.
Absolutely. But I feel like, who is that?
I like
Holtzman?
the grimy old Carney.
I agree, and he won that last fight as well against Allen. So either way, I feel like Miller gets it to the ground when he wants to. He has as good a takedowns. And even in the clinch, he has a better position than Holtzman. Holtzman's best shot at this fight is keeping it striking and being at distance, but the veteranship is going to come through. I'm fairly confident in this, and I'm pretty surprised that this line it's what it's at. Give me the underdog plus 120, a Jim Miller time. Who do you have and why?
The losses for Jim Miller, and you look at the Hooker knee, like Dan Hooker, we love Dan Hooker here. We do get high on Dan Hooker. Charles Oliveira, same. Like, love that dude. So losing to both those guys at what they do best, that is what it is. The wins, Alex White and Jason Gonzalez. The Clay Guida, I don't know how I feel about that. Like, we were all fading Jim Miller. We were saying he should retire for like over a year. Holtzman's the same age as him though. His last few fights have looked really well. Alan Patrick is nasty. I would say he's nasty on the ground. So if he can handle that, he handled him. He was fine, Scott Holtzman.
Correct.
So I think he could be okay against Jim Miller. I don't think it should be a heavy favorite, but I'm going to go with Holtzman decision here. I think he could keep Jim Miller off of him enough, and I think he has more power. Crisper boxing.
He does have the better hands than Jim Miller slightly.
If he can keep on his feet, and I think he can hurt Jim Miller. I think Jim Miller should still retire. Maybe Scott Holtzman too. Double gloves.
Double retiree. I like it.
Right now I have Holtzman decision, but I like everything that you're saying. But I'm probably going to stay away from this fight.
You were going to go with the slight favorite, minus 150. Hot Sauce Holtzman coming in at 8,200 against Jim Miller's 8,000 even, plus 120 underdog. That's going to be a fun one. I'm going to be playing Miller at 8,000, especially because I have a finish there. I'm going to stay away from Holtzman myself personally. So take that for what it is. On a fun one. It's going to be a fireworks regardless. It's going to be
my
fireworks.
other little boyfriend, though, is the next fight. He's my little boyfriend.
Bantamweight, John Dodson, Cheney's boyfriend, coming in against Nathaniel Wood. What? You don't like Ninja Turtles?
No. I love Nathaniel Wood, though.
So
I love his fight style.
He definitely gets added in there. The 16-3 Nathaniel Woods coming off of a long winning streak off of the Cage Warriors Championship. 3 in a row in the UFC, beating Johnny Eduardo in a submission. Ewell in a submission. Who else? Quinones in a submission here. Nathaniel Wood gets it to the ground and done. When he does strike, though, he can get in trouble. There's been many of fights where I've seen Nathaniel Wood get cracked and have to use his head in there while he's recovering to get it done. Fortunately for him, it's worked out, and he's been able to get the fight to the ground, do what he needs to do there to finally be able to sink in the submission. And against an aging veteran like John Dodson, the Little Ninja Turtle, coming off a 2-fight losing streak, has a 20-11 record.
We're going to see a lot of cuts after this fight card. I just want you guys to be prepared.
Get ready for it. You think this might be one of them, apparently. With Dodson, we know what we get with the... Who is it? Freaking...
John Dodson.
John Dodson. He's at Jackson Wink. The local guy, if there's a local guy, he's training at altitude. He's definitely... is a Holly Holm type of figure. He's stick and run. Mm-hmm. He will throw that jab, throw that overhand right, and run
sideways
away.
Around the cage. Sideways around the cage.
For 3 rounds, and he will turn it into a
You know what you're going to hear me after his fight when he wins the decision? This is what you're going to hear me say next week. What? He didn't even stay in the center of the octagon.
He didn't even have control.
Right. Totally against everything I said earlier.
So, funny you're saying that because in that style, especially in New Mexico, I feel like John Dodson's going to John Dodson here and turn it into a grimy type of a dirty split situation where the volume's going to be incredibly low output. John Dodson is live for a knockout here, as hittable as Nathaniel Wood can be. As much as Nathaniel Wood, if he does get it to the ground, where Dodson's hard to get to the ground, Wood has a big advantage on the ground. But we've seen Dodson be able to fight off many a better submission artists of even getting there. And I don't think Wood has the takedowns to get there. So I think it stays striking. I got John Dodson. Dirty split. I could even see a potential finish, but I don't think I play this on DraftKings because it's going to be low output, and it's going to be John Dodson running away for 50% of this fight.
John Dodson's fight style relied on his speed that he does not have anymore. And I think he's totally hittable now. If it goes to decision, he tends to be losing these decisions more and more. I think Woods is going to get better and better. I think his ground game's on point, and I liked what I saw from his hands his last fight. I'm going to go with Woods' decision here. I think he's going to have all 3 rounds. And I don't think he's at any risk of getting knocked out. I don't ever think John Dodson comes with any pressure anymore forward. He is always on the outside, just skipping around the ring. Like it's one of the more painful ones to watch at this point.
I'm not saying bet this fight, but I'm just I agree with you. This is going to be a really interesting matchup. I don't necessarily think for all the right reasons. I think it is going to be a point fight when it comes down to it. But give me that
new
underdog.
Breed. Give me the new breed.
New young talent at 26 years old, plus 160, Nathaniel Wood, 8,600 on DraftKings against John Dodson's 7,668 plus 130 underdog. I got 2 underdogs in a row right now. I'm feeling grimy. This is definitely turning out to be a hell of a fight card when we're this split up. I don't feel like we've agreed on anything.
Yeah.
Maybe Pava. No, we didn't. So then we go to the headlining preliminary card at 170 pounds. We have Tim Means coming in against Daniel Rodriguez. Rodriguez being 10-1, the debut fighter, is definitely a local California native. He's actually a purple belt out of the Eddie Bravo 10 Planet Jiu-Jitsu scene. So haven't really seen him much on the ground. He is a little late to the game at 33 years old. But he had a life of crime that he used MMA to stay away from that and has now been knocking guys out. Really, all of the fights I could watch with this young man, Rodriguez here, was him keeping fights standing. He didn't want to go to the ground. I was surprised when I found out he was a purple belt in Eddie Bravo in 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu. I'm just like, okay, well, their purple belts are pretty legit. So he likes to bang. He's a southpaw, has a good straight left down the middle. Not the best head movement. Rodriguez, even though I haven't seen him hurt in many of his fights, and I got to catch like 5 or 6 of his earlier fights, he'd eat shots to land 3 shots that you'd usually hurt his opponents a lot more. When he gets on top, from even takedowns, or if he ends up on top in a flurry, he has good ground and pound. And it's going to be a tough one in here for him against a 29-11 Dirty Bird Means coming off of a win. He is definitely the big favorite, last submitting Thiago Alves 2 months ago. Prior to that, losing to Nico Price via punches. Beating Rick Rainey. We know what we get with Tim Means. Kickboxing on the ground. We haven't seen him as much lately. He used to have some submissions. I don't think it's going to go there like I was saying.
Did he just submit Alves?
Right. Was that, he was hurt though? He hurt Alves and then jumped on him? Am I wrong there, or was it like a guillotine choke? Yeah. Feel like he could have caught him a bit there or jumped on it. But I don't think Rodriguez takes it there, and either, well, Dirty Beard has shot some shots every once in a while here. The better kickboxing goes to Tim Means. It's just that chin. I feel like Tim Means could be landing the better strikes, and all of a sudden, just like Nico Price, actually exactly like Nico Price, I feel like Tim Means will be letting go, and all of a sudden, and straight left is going to come down, and Tim Means isn't going to be able to take it. But, I'm talking myself out of this. I have Tim Means TKO round number 2, but I'm like, in my head, all of a sudden, I'm seeing like...
soft body.
Yeah. It's just, Rodriguez hasn't took the amount of damage in the amount of fights that Means has. Means has been in flat-out wars, and I've seen him be had that switch shut off. I haven't seen that in Rodriguez in any fights. Nothing even close. He bites down on his mouthpiece and keeps trucking forward, and that's kind of the way you beat Tim Means. You got TKO round 2. Tim Means the big favorite right now. I'm going to go decision. I'm moving that, and I could see myself switching to this. I'm talking myself out of it because that's the notes that I got.
The other thing with Tim Means is he's a quitter. If he gets hurt after a certain point in a fight, he's kind of like Oliveira, where it's just like he'll curl up. He has a soft body. If you're saying this guy has heavy hands, that could be dangerous for Tim Means, especially a hungry guy that has everything to prove, new to the UFC, which I don't usually like. You know, I feel all contender, no contenders, and he's a contender series guy, but I like that he went and fought somewhere else. And is this a short call? They called him up short?
I believe it was, but I wasn't. I know that the next Rodriguez, because there's another one, he was short. But I think this Daniel Rodriguez might have been in like the 2.5 to 3 week range of short training camp. So not James Krause type of short notice.
I just feel about Tim Means like I do Jim Miller. Just because they have these wins of recent, I still think they should retire. I still think the same thing that I thought before. I love Dirty Bird, but give me Rodriguez decision right now. I could change it to a finish because I do think Tim Means quits, and I could see him go down with body shots.
You were right. He does get hurt to the body
a lot. KO
lot.
round 3 for Rodriguez. I could see myself going with Means though too. This is a close fight for me.
This is a lot closer than the lines have it as we're talking through it here. Tim Means 9,100 plus minus 275 against debuting Daniel Rodriguez's 7,100 plus 215 underdog. So he's got an uphill battle there, but that's going to be a fun one. Ooh. Stay tuned for that one. I could see myself switching in a heartbeat. So definitely a fun way to start off the main card, the Fight Pick Championships. We're going in for all the marbles. We're trying to take it all down, inch our way up to that belt. We're coming for who's ever in the first spot, because you don't even deserve to be named on this podcast anymore.
Alpha's still number 1.
Oh, the Big Pink Weenie.
I think I'm number 2. I might be number 3 behind Buddy, but we're swap spots. I think Juice made a little ground. I know you crawled up this week too.
I crawled down. I slid down. I got down to 6th overall. I mean, I tied for 3rd.
What is happening over there?
I tied for 3rd, but I don't.
The Fight Pick Championships is ruining your life.
It is. Absolutely.
You have to get first place this week.
Oh, there's time. There's still many a time to score many a fights. And I feel like this one actually is going to be a 6
That's what you said last year.
This is a 6-carder, so we're going to have an extra potential hot 25 to be able to get in there. 6-card main event. So it's going to be super, super fun in there with a fight of the night contender with Groovy Landau Venata coming in against Yancy Medeiros, the 209 represent. Yancy Medeiros, 15-6, coming off a 2-fight losing streak. Sorry about that. Losing to Gregor Gillespie TKO, and prior to that, Donald Cerrone TKO. But since then, before that, he did beat Alex Oliveira, also beating Sean Spencer.
A whole bunch of people not in the UFC anymore.
Alex Oliveira is still in there. That was a fight of the year contender in that scrap against but that was already years ago. So the 32-year-old has taken over a year off since his last 2 knockouts. I don't really mind that at all whatsoever. He's good boxing, good kicks, nasty on the ground. Will even shoot a takedown every once in a while. Thing I don't like about Yancy Medeiros is that he fights to the level of his opponent and will get into firefights unnecessarily. And there's times where Yancy Medeiros will be as wobbly gets. He'll be the scarecrow out of the freaking Wizard of Oz and throw a shot instead of cover up. And even though it's valiant and it could turn the tides of the fight for you, it's also when you're at your weakest. In the UFC game, when you're hurt, you don't throw a shot. You fall back get your wits about you and you get back in that fight. So I would hope that veteranship would come through for him, but it's just not something he does. But Yancey definitely needs to get back on board here at 155. And it's going to be tough because Lando Venata is a good wrestler, been at Jackson Wink, throws a lot of spinning shit in there, has some controversial draws, controversial split decisions that have gone against him, but he's the same way. He fights to the level of his opponent. Lando Venata, short notice, came against Tony Ferguson, hurt him with some crazy spinning shit, and that's because Lando Venata has a very, dare I say, groovy style. It's just a little off to his own pace. He throws in shots at awkward angles, but he always just manages to get into a firefight as well, which makes this fight incredibly dynamic, but absolutely terrifying to bet on. This is a coin flip as it gets, because it's who lands the puncher kick first, as golden as it can become. Like, this is nuts. I can barely talk. I'm swallowing my own spit.
I know.
I'm so excited.
I have to give you the Heimlich.
This is unreal. Give me Medeiros in a decision right now. I can wake up and go Venata tomorrow. I could go TKO for either guy. I could go submission for either guy. These are both
So you're not
well-rounded
helping
guys.
anyone here.
0%. Well, I got Medeiros. Decision. Landau gets a little gas, but so does Medeiros in the end. They're almost mirror images of each other. Except Landau throws more spinning attacks. If it's not the spinning back fist, it's the spinning kick, where I think Medeiros is a little more linear. We'll throw that teep a little bit more. But Landau's known to do that as well. But the length, I guess the only advantage is 5'10 against 5'9 with a 3-inch reach advantage for Yancy Medeiros. I like the boxing of Medeiros. Both of their chins are tested constantly. Lando Venata is able to hold it together, though. He hasn't been put out as much as Yancy. I got a decision. These are my 5 big championships. I'm not happy. You could have given me a lot of other fights that I would have been way more confident on.
Really? I feel so confident about Venata winning this fight.
Boom.
My only question is whether it's by decision or a knockout. Yancy, knowing Gregor Gillespie kind of built his name a little off Yancy Medeiros, and before that we sent Cowboy Cerrone on this mad tear off Yancy Medeiros' chin. If he wants to get in a banging fight against Landau has the better hands here. He's still improving every day. We just haven't really seen a lot from Yancy, and as everyone he's beating, as far as I'm concerned, they're either so far away from being removed of being UFC caliber, or Alex Oliveira, which he is the type that he's so octagon flaky that so it just was like, oh, you didn't really hurt Alex enough that you stayed in a brutal fight. Oh, wait, you know who I was thinking of the whole time when I was talking? Alex Caceres.
But Oliveira has been on a losing streak.
Yeah, I don't care
two or
about
three
him
in a row.
either. So I just think Landau's still one of the guys that has potential to move up in the division, and I think it's easily right through Yancy Medeiros. So my only question is, am I going to put Venata knockout round 2 or Venata decision? So I'm going to stick with Venata decision right now, hoping Yancy's chin can hold up and maybe that he can eke out a round. But I think Landau could even do that body work. I think Yancy has a soft body. He starts covering it up, and that's why he leaves himself open. Give me Venata easily right now. Easily. I want to change it right now to KO.
I don't know how you have this fight easily. I am so torn about it. And it's on the lines. Minus 110 Lando Venata coming in at 8,100 against the minus 120. Slight favorite, near even odds, 8,100 Yancy Medeiros. This is as coin flip as it gets. So
it's exciting.
It's exciting and very exciting because either one of these guys can finish it. Such a fun one. I can't wait for that one. Then 155 pounds, Brock Weaver coming in against Rodrigo Vargas on short notice replacement. This is about 10 days notice for Vargas here. This is where I was, I do definitely know that the tape was short on him. He's 11-3 coming off of a loss to Alex De Silva.
Yeah. Lost to Alex De Silva decision 5 months and 4 weeks ago.
Definitely in there. He has fought in the UFC, coming also beating Mike De La Torre in Combate America in there. He's a southpaw, is Vargas, 34 years old, coming out of the Pride Gym. he definitely has solid boxing, straight left that lands. Gas tank isn't so good. He has a left kick that he'll throw out there well. In the clinch, he's got a couple knockouts from clinching into the knees, but been on the regional scene. He has been able to get out grappled by some of the lesser Mexican fighters he's been fighting as well. When it comes against an American wrestler in the young Brock Weaver, who's 14-4, coming off of the Contender Series, he had to fall out of his other fight because of, I can't remember if it was weight cutting issues or some sort of family issues, but he's already had a postponed debut in the UFC multiple times, decisioning Devin Smith. I feel like Brock Weaver is getting a little extra clout because of his fighting style and his stature and just kind of his microphone skills. He's very straightforward, very native type of stoic demeanor, where he had an interview on a radio show where they were like, all right, give us your best WWE promo. He's like, I don't really do that stuff. And he just kind of stayed quiet. And it's like, this is not the
like,
time.
Do it.
Not the time. So, but Brock Weaver in here likes to bang. He'll get in a scrap, but he really relies on his wrestling once he gets in a little bit of danger, or he actually just mixes it up well to throw guys off of it. His gas tank isn't the best, but his heart is. That's why people like him. Even though you can see he's dog tired in there, he keeps moving forward and just puts a grind on these guys. I think that Vargas is just not necessarily UFC caliber in here. Weaver has shown a good chin. I don't think we have to worry about that much. I think the takedowns add up in this fight. Give me Weaver. Decision. I don't think I see a finish for either one of these guys. I think it turns into a wrestling match.
I fully agree. I don't even have anything to add on that.
Weaver being the minus 280 favorite. He's going to be a big favorite on the night.
His size is really what's going to do it for me in this. Vargas on short notice of a guy that usually fights at 155, fighting a guy that's cutting down from probably 190 to 170.
Correct.
I just think, especially a wrestler, he's going to throw Vargas around. There's going to be so many takedowns that normally a Contender Series guy would want to stay away from, but I actually think it could be high scoring.
Brock Weaver, 9,200 on DraftKings against Vargas is 7,000. You're liking the high scoring points.
I think it might be.
Oh, 9-2
if you
is
say
steep.
his wrestling is what it is, then I think he's going to be able to throw this little guy all around the ring. And I don't think he's going to have to worry about the power so much.
But what I could also see happening with Brock Weaver, though, is getting one takedown and then
just laying
on top.
Low scoring.
Exactly. Where he will get 3 takedowns, but that's 9
So
points.
maybe just speckle him. But
Yeah.
I think we both feel comfortable with the win.
Out of either fighter, though, it's Brock Weaver that you're making the play on there, though. But it's just a little steep at 9-2 for me against an unproven guy. And I got to give you credit. You have been on this train more than anybody, and it's made more cash for you by far than me. And that's going against
all the Contender Series
all
guys.
the contender. That's you. That's all you say. You're like, I hate all of them. And you're pretty spot on. There's like 2 of them. Yusef, and who was the other one I said?
I know Sodiq Yusuf was the best. That was the one.
But
that
but then one more, and then other than that, they've been dominated in a lot of spots.
Yeah, it's almost like if they're good enough, they're gonna get swooped up by an organization, like to be just a.
They'll come off of the regional scene.
And the Tough House, because I saw a couple of people say, well, it's kind of the same as the Tough House, the Dana White contender. Yeah, not really, because in the Tough House they get coached by like professional people that are in the UFC. They're in the house. They're fighting like multiple times right on top of each other. So I think the amount of experience that come out of the Tough House compared to one Dana White Contender Series is everything. So yeah, I know it's weird that I'm saying it because he is kind of a Contender Series guy, but
moving on to 125 pounds, we have returning Ray Borg coming in against Rodrigo Bertonen. We were talking about that young man earlier, getting that cut stoppage over Pava in a hell of a scrap. Bertonen gets in there with a 16-1 record and is really serviceable everywhere. I mean, debuted and had a showcase fight. Both guys were getting hurt in that fight, so he definitely likes to bang. He's not scared Bertonen is kind of like a John Lineker type of style. He does go to the body well, has a cast iron chin, relies on it, and doesn't get hurt too often. But watching tape, he just eats shots and is like, okay, How about this 3-punch combination right back in your face? His gas tank has looked good, just not on UFC level yet. Yes, he's doing this, going hard for 3 or more rounds in smaller organizations, but this is the UFC. This is definitely a next level worth of cardio, especially it being at altitude. This is a Brazilian fighter who is young on his career. I don't necessarily know if he has the funds to be able to get out there early. I feel like the UFC, we know for a fact the UFC likes to get these fighters out a week ahead of time because you don't want to leave them there for too long. You don't want to be playing per diem every day. So when they do this, it's about 7 days. Supposedly it takes 10 days to acclimate to anywhere. So thought process out there. We know that freaking Ray Borg trains at altitude in Albuquerque, New Mexico. So he's going to be the local favorite here. He's the wrestler. He's the guy who we've seen be 12-4. He came in and lost to Demetrius Johnson, but he's beaten Jussier Formiga, lost to Johnson, lost to Kenny in a unanimous decision, and last beat Gabriel Silva in a unanimous decision. We know what we get with the Taz Mexican Devil. Wrestling, and then some more wrestling. All of his other life stories is always an issue. His biggest paycheck was Conor McGregor, and he's definitely always just had...
He fought Conor McGregor?
Oh, no, he was a part of that lawsuit with freaking Michael Chiesa. He had glass in his eye. He was cut off of the fight.
Oh, I don't remember Ray Borg being in there at all.
Yeah, Ray Borg was in the van, and they pulled glass out of his eye, and they had to pull him from the card.
Oh, I thought it was his daughter. That's where...
He's had to prior to. Yeah. I mean, he's another pull-out king in here. Him and Montano are 2 peas in a pod. I mean, this one's still barely on there, because Ray Borg is also, I feel like, pulled out because he was cutting weight too hard. It's just been...
Well, that's what I was about to ask you. Do you have any reservations about him being at 125 again?
Yes, got to. Absolutely have to.
And have we ever seen him make this weight, or at least in the last 4 years? Have we seen him make 125?
He has trouble, and most of the time, if he was traveling somewhere, maybe I would be like, all right, cool. He had to do the work, but when I'm seeing some of these guys be in their hometown, it might not help them that they're getting tacos for lunch. You know, they're not at a camp just living in the suck. They're at home every single day eating tamales and tortas and all that goodness. So I got Ray Borg in a decision. I think he's going to try to wrestle him here. But if Bertonen can keep this standing, I think he can hurt Borg here and make it super dicey. This is a close one. We might not even see this fight come to fruition.
That's why it's a 6 card.
Yeah, we gotta be watching weigh-ins.
I think we'll see it, but just be aware that Ray Borg, I think the bet to make, the sure bet, is that he comes in 2 pounds over, loses 30% of his purse, and then we see him win a comfortable decision. But he's actually not the bigger guy, so... I don't know. It should be definitely an interesting one. I was thinking he was going to have the size against Bontorin, but I'm not worried about Ray getting hurt. I think he's going to have the better cardio here. I think he can out-wrestle him. Just kind of keep dragging him down, keep him in deep water, and wear him out. Give me Ray Borg decision, but I don't like him at 125, so...
8,300 for the minus 150 favorite Ray Borg against the plus 120 underdog Bertonen in there. Definitely... gonna be a decision in there. Yep. We'll just leave it at that. Moving on to flyweights, the other half of the De La Rosas at 125 pounds. We have Montana coming in against Mara Romero Barella. Barella being 12-6, coming off of a loss against Lauren Murphy TKO 6 months ago. Prior to that, split decisioning Tila Santos. Prior to that, beating Faria in a submission. Definitely the Italian Fire Barella has done best with her submissions, has some kickboxing in there, a front kick every once in a while, but really not that good of a striker and actually likes to get it done on the ground more than anything. Unfortunately for her, that plays into De La Rosa's game. The 25-year-old here grew up wrestling in the United States, has minimal takedowns, but obviously on the ground is where she does her best. Her striking has actually been pretty abysmal, and I've been tricked into thinking she's more of a specialist than she is. her specialty is grappling, it doesn't mean she's a specialist. It's just the best attribute that she has because her striking is not good. Her cardio's also been not the best either. But if Barella keeps going to the ground here, I feel like Rosas throws up, has an active guard off of her back, and can even potentially submit here. But we were saying, all Rosas, no Rosas. So I'm not picking Rosa in the other one, but I think I have a decision in this one against Barella. But I don't like Barella. I think Barella might not be able to be in the UFC either, only winning via split decision. Well, she has a submission in there, but Fiera just got cut. Faria literally just got cut in all that group of people because she hasn't been able to win one either. So give me Rosa in this one, decision. Whew, this is a dirty, dirty, grimy fight. I'm going to stay away from this one.
I am going all De La Rosa. I'm going to go with both of them. I have him, I think, by decision right now. I'm going to go with her. I think she's going to stay on the submission attempts long enough that eventually Barella does give up. Barella has more muscle here. I think she's going to burn out by the attempts on her arms and her necks and getting out of the submission for round 1, round 2. This is going to be a boring fight. Go make a sandwich. But I think De La Rosa will eke out the submission by round 3 and round 2. So give me all the De La Rosas and they can go home and both put on red panties for each other. De La Rosa red panty night.
Guaranteed. So De La Rosa 8,700 for the minus 175 favorite. Coming in against Barella's plus 145, 7,500. We both have De La Rosa, but we both have decision.
I have submission.
You have submission.
Round 3.
So 8-7.
Maybe
I could actually, out of the two, I see the submission more likely for De La Rosa as well. So I think if there is a play, it's only De La Rosa in this spot. And 8-7, she's not over that 9. She's one of the people that's in that range that I like more than most. Brock Weaver, 9-2, no thank you.
Sometimes as much as the ladies are... they either slay in the points or get no points.
Yep.
Yeah, I think there is a finishing chance here, but I do think it could just be a bunch of submission attempts that last 3 minutes apiece that are no scoring. So if it goes to decision, neither of them are worth it. But if you think the submission could actually happen, then yeah, maybe play De La Rosa on a few.
Then we go on to the co-main event of the evening at 170 pounds. We have longtime veteran from UFC Tough House 1, Diego the Nightmare Sanchez. What? Is it the Nightmare, the Dream? I thought he's changed that damn name so many times. Coming in against Mikael Pereira, the Dominator. Demoler? Whatever the hell. So, the 23-10 fighter Pereira in here, coming off of a big upset on short notice. Tristan Connolly moving up a weight, ended up decisioning Pereira because we saw him jumping kneeing in the room, in the freaking... Not only did he miss weight by, 5 pounds? He ended up doing flying knees in the back room for his warm-up and gassed out in the first 30 seconds of the fight because he was dancing.
The whole walk.
Going
like hard
crazy.
Dancing. Like he was on ecstasy, MDMA,
like
rolling into the club.
I already won this fight, guys. This is a 155er coming in against the one freaking 70-pounder in here. Pereira supposedly had ended up cutting and still missing by pounds, 40 pounds. That's how big Pereira is. That's how muscular of a guy and how much weight he cuts. That's unbelievable.
It's crazy.
Well, it's just also, that's going to tax you as well.
That's why you're burning out.
That's why you're burning out quickly. I mean, it was pretty much 2 minutes into that fight and all of a sudden it's Tristan Connolly's getting takedowns in this fight. Pereira's saying that he's now on weight. He's getting it a lot better. All these things. But after the first round... Pereira, every fight that he's gone in after the first round, he's 50-50 on. 50% chance he wins, 50% chance he loses, but it's 100% due to that gas tank that he even has any type of issues. And against a fighter like Diego Sanchez, he's proven as of late, the old dog is still really good at his tricks, and that's dragging you into deep water and wearing you out. Ask Mickey Gall. Ask his last 2 wins, because that's exactly what Diego Sanchez had to do. Finally, Michael Chiesa ended up doing that to him, but he's a much bigger fighter with much more fight experience in the UFC. Where Pereira here, if he doesn't get that knockout in the first couple rounds for Diego Sanchez, I think Diego has a real shot of just wrestle fucking the shit out of him. And all of a sudden, it could be a TKO where it's Diego just being like, oh, this guy's done. I can throw punches at will from top. And Pereira won't be out, but it'll just be more accumulation here. I got Diego Sanchez in a decision. He did just get an estrogen clearance, though, because he did test positive for a supplement, but it was deemed that it was a tainted supplement. So he saw no restriction at all. If anything, they called him and said, hey, you popped for whatever ball. By the way, it was the company, you're done. Or not you're done, but you already served your time. And he was like, what? And Diego's come out and been like, it's just bullshit because now I have an asterisk and I never did that. Like, you can see here's all my
asterisk doesn't mean shit. No one gives a fuck about your record at this point.
I totally agree with that, Diego Sanchez. The last thing you have to worry about is, if anything, people are like, please get on steroids at your condition.
Yeah.
Please get on steroids. But I got Diego Sanchez's decision. I feel like this motherfucker is going to show Pereira again, like, okay, once you don't knock... But Evil Twins all over Pereira TKO round number 1 because he thinks he's so much bigger.
He's so much bigger, and if you see the guys that Diego gets knocked out by, they're all guys that have that kind of height on him that we're going to see Pereira have. I just see the insecurity of Pereira when he was coming in last time, and he just unraveled. That was an emotional thing that I'm going to dance the whole way, and I'm going to do flying knees in the back. He was trying to overcompensate his fear a little bit, and I wonder how he's going to do coming into this. I think there can't be a more chinnier fighter than Diego, but gosh, I mean, how long has it been? It's been over 2 years since we've seen him get knocked out, but it was by like Matt Brown, who probably shouldn't have been fighting then and still shouldn't now. But then you see him go to decision with a guy like Chiesa. Michael Chiesa was the better wrestler there, but isn't known really for his power.
Right.
So Michael Pereira is, I love what you're saying. I have Sanchez decision right now as well, but I see that first round knockout, easy potential for Pereira.
Right, where it's like, of course, where we're like, why was I so dumb? No, but there's real avenues here for Diego Sanchez.
But I just think if Diego, if they watched any tape at all, if any study is done, you just have to hold on to this guy. If you can get one takedown in the first, you'll blow his wad, and then you're kind of fine the whole rest of the fight. Like, I mean, you can get points and outscore him to an easy decision. I just think that first round, he is so dangerous.
He is a Jackson Wink fighter. He is out of Albuquerque. Do you think they're trying to set him up? Because he
doesn't fight at Jackson Wink anymore, right?
Oh, that is right. You're right on that.
But he might be still out of Albuquerque.
But he's still out of Albuquerque. Yeah. Well, he's state champ wrestler. He grew up in Albuquerque. But this is where the altitude comes in. A guy who's known to gas fighting in altitude?
I'm going to keep Sanchez decision. He just has to survive the first round, and we all know it's going to be crazy.
It's going to be
14 flying knees, spinning back fist, and Pereira is going to be a huge beast compared to Diego. But let's hope Diego's filled in a little better since we first saw him.
Especially now that he's off steroids.
Yeah, I have Sanchez decision too, but it's a sketchy fight. But I agree. I see all this going down.
So Mikel Pereira, minus 160 favorite, 8,500 on DraftKings against Diego Sanchez is plus 130, 7,700 here. I think that I'm going to play actually both fighters here. I'm going to go 10-10 on this one because, again, if Pereira gets that knockout, he's paying off 8-5 easy because it's going to be in the first. And if it gets out of the first round, Diego Sanchez is paying off that 7-7.
Yeah, true.
So, not both. Don't stack this card. Don't be no dingus. I'm saying one or the other. So then we move on to the main event at 205 pounds. We have a 5-rounder. If you tend to stack a fight, it's usually these type of fights in the 5 rounds. Corey Anderson, Jan Blachowicz, number 2. Actually, it's Blachowicz with a Blachowicz. We've been through it before.
Blah.
So Yanni in here, getting it done as of late. 25-8. only losing to Thiago Santos in a knockout in a barn burner of a first round if you go back and watch it. I mean, the biggest disservice I could give to Jan Blachowicz in that is, again, instead of just covering up, he was like, fuck it, even though I'm hurt, I'm going to throw a strike. And Santos just got there first, but he hurt Santos as well. Blachowicz has had a resurgence. He came back, tightened up his cardio, last split decision, Jacare Souza, where we got it right here at LaTB. And then prior to that, he also beat Luke Rockhold with that left hook. But it's really been that left body kick for Blachowicz that I think has always been his number one tool to get it done in there. We saw this the first time around. Anderson got it done with that wrestling. He put a pace on him. Jan Blachowicz didn't have the gas tank at the time. I do think he's gotten a lot better. If anything, I hate to say it, but I have been saying it for a while. Jan is on the juice. He came into the UFC, got through USADA and was like, all right, now I can try. And all of a sudden was just absolutely shredded at 36 years old and has looked at of late. But hey, as long as I'm betting on you, I don't care. What he needs to do in here, though, is test that chin of Corey Anderson. Corey Anderson's, it's gotten tested before by lesser fighters, and he hasn't come out in fights he's easily been winning. All of a sudden, that third round OSP lands a shot, and Anderson just can't do it. Anderson says he's changed that. He's changed his fight style to no longer have to do that. He's even turned up the volume that much more and is ready to fight at a full pace, fighting out of Illinois. He's definitely had a 4-fight winning streak. Biggest fight to date, Johnny Walker knocking him out 3 months ago in a quick one. Latifi before that decision and him. Glover Teixeira in a decision. It's usually rinse and repeat for Corey Anderson. Smooth double leg takedown into some ground and pound, but not really finishing potential. He just, again, breaks you with that grind. What I liked that I heard here for Jan Blachowicz doing some studying is he arrived 2 weeks on his own dime to Albuquerque, or to Rancho Rio in there, Rio Rancho, to climatize. So he's going to have a full 14 days. He's going to be in that 10-day window there. I like that. He's taking that next level type of thinking. He's definitely has the power advantage in this spot and can put out Corey Anderson's lights very, very quickly. But I do think that rinse and repeat style just adds up on Jan Blachowicz, and it's not going to be an exciting fight. Corey Anderson's, a lot of people say that the winner of this fight gets John Jones for the next one, and I likely see it. And John Jones, I would think, would want Corey Anderson because it's not because it's a harder fight, because stylistically it's an easier John Jones fight than Jan Blachowicz would be, honestly. That's what I see. I got Anderson being a big favorite here. But I'm going to speckle some Jan Blachowicz on here. Blachowicz hurts you. He's got power, so I'm gonna have some exposure to him on DraftKings. Give me a decision, 5 rounds. Corey Anderson, who do you have and why?
I have, of course, Jan Blachowicz. I'm going to go with Jan. I've gone with him, I think, 12 of his last 13 fights and been right of 9 of 13. So it's not going to do me any wrong. Now, I don't even want to look up my Corey Anderson record. There's no need to. I'm not a fan of Corey Anderson. The people that he's beating, in my opinion, are all people that shouldn't be in the UFC, with the exception of the flash knockout of Johnny Walker, which surprised him as much as it surprised us. So I don't see him knocking out Jan. And if he fell in love with his striking at all in that fight and even tries to stand with Jan for a minute, Jan's going to pick him apart everywhere. I don't like that Jan has not gone against a wrestler. I don't like when I look at his record.
The Anderson, the first fight.
Oh, yeah.
And he lost it.
Oh, yeah. By getting takedown and rinse and repeat.
Correct.
And that's probably why everyone sees it going this way. I got to think from Jan, from that point to this point, you're looking at John Jones, knowing that is going to be a factor. I have to think he's worked on that takedown defense. I do like that he's gotten there earlier, and I just really just know it now. I cannot bet on Corey Anderson. I don't like his chin. I think he doesn't do anything with the takedowns once he gets them there, and he just lacks ring IQ. I know he's on a 4-fight win streak, but they're against like 40-year-old something men. So give me Jan. Decision.
Wow, big underdog there. Corey Anderson being the minus 230 favorite, 8,900 for Corey Anderson against Jan Blachowicz, plus 180, 7,300 on DraftKings. I'm going to have exposure to both guys here. I'm going to have more exposure to Jan Blachowicz because he's obviously the play in a 5-rounder. Mm-hmm. Even in a decision fight, if Corey decisions him here, which I don't think the finish comes, Jan's worth it there because he can easily add up his own points.
You see one or two takedowns, the first one or two takedowns go, and Jan has takedown defense to stay on his feet.
It's a different fight. It's a different fight.
Yeah.
I 100% agree with that. So I'm going to be tentative on Anderson. I'm going to have limited exposure. Like I'm saying, the play here, even though I'm picking Anderson, is Jan Blachowicz for me as far as DraftKings is concerned.
Yeah, I like that. But for that fight pick, you going with Anderson?
I'm going for the fight pick. It changes everything.
Yeah. And at least Albuquerque, you got to hope that they understand wrestling and takedowns and not just a boxing sport.
I would think it's a wrestling state.
Yeah.
So definitely a fun fight card, better than the pay-per-view.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's definitely much closer.
There's a lot of gloves that should be laid. There should be more gloves laid in Albuquerque Octagon than we've ever seen. It should just be gloves after gloves after gloves.
Not a bad call, but definitely going to be a fun one. Be sure to stick around when we get our cards up later on in the week.
Thanks for listening.
Like me.